New record, new theme, new songs, totally different stage of life now. It seemed really appropriate to start with this song. Days of a brand new start. It's more vulnerable, it's more personal. It's still joyous. Joyous? Is that a word? Joyful.
It is. It's a word that you don't want to say, but yeah, it is a word.
Huh. Interesting. I'm Josh Hour.
I'm Jerad Atherton.
And we are Chapters. I did the demo for this in a different program. I've been in Pro Tools my whole life, and I couldn't figure out how to do anything except for just record my vocal.
It's just disorienting.
Yeah. So there wasn't a lot on this demo. It was just maybe a kick drum and acoustic and just a ton of vocal layers. And I still sent it over like, hey, what do you think of this one?
Days of a brand new start came in a perfect time and measure.
Yeah, when I first heard it, I was really knocked out by the lyrics. It's just great turns of phrases in there that I connected with that are open but sound so specific as well. And the energy of it, the strength and power of it, such a contrast from where we'd been. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's very hopeful. It's very optimistic without being cheap or whatever. So I was very, very excited by it. You'd sent this to me and said, I don't know, should we do this? Is this worth pursuing? And I was like, yes, definitely worth pursuing. I hear things right away. I wanted to grab my mandolin and acoustic guitars and add some things and go all in on it.
I knew instrumentally this would be a good way for us to kind of revisit some of those just real simple organic instruments that we had used on like Chapter 2 and even Chapter 1.
Yeah.
Ukulele, mandolin, glockenspiel. Like there's so much that you could do with a song like this and just have it feel really big and organic, but again with a ton of vocal layers.
Yeah. We tend to gravitate toward a couple different genres, very cinematic, folk, pop rock kind of stuff, and then some electronic elements. But this one, we definitely want to go into the folk side of things and explore that. Let that just be wood and steel.
We had just gotten a new piano in the studio. My buddy Michael Paquette dropped off his piano because it was just sitting in storage. And so I had another buddy of mine come in and play it just so we can get some sounds. And this happened to be the song that we were working on at the moment. So I just threw a couple mics up and like, hey, hit these chords for me. And my buddy Paul came in and just nailed it.
Yeah, it's just perfect. Bright, tacky, cuts through, out of tune.
Yeah.
Perfect.
At the time. Don't listen too carefully.
No, I think it's great. Little
hammer dulcimer?
Yeah. Brushed. One of my favorite lines in the song is exhale with a fire in your lungs.
Yeah.
And where'd that come from?
That one's pretty specific. Every time Rowan would have open heart surgery, they'd intubate her and she'd have surgery, she'd come back up, and then they would extubate her, so they'd take all that stuff out. And she would always just cry for a while. And she would say it felt like there was, fire in her lungs or her chest, like when it felt like fire when she breathed. And as a parent, man, going through that is just it's so brutal, so heavy. How do you take that line? I'm curious.
Made for the worthy cause, brace when it crashes down around here. Exhale with a fire in your lungs. well, you know we're all around you. Being a dad, I think about family. I think about raising 2 boys.
Yeah.
And the cause of that brace when it crashes down around here. When I was on the phone with you yesterday and my boys, I heard this big crash in the kitchen and
That's right.
1,000 pens and pencils and crayons went all over the floor. And
That's not as scary as heart failure, but I understand your point.
oh, geez, playing the heart failure card again, always.
Oh, I'm going to pull that for years, my friend. But no, go ahead and tell your story.
Well,
We're listening.
yeah. But that lyric is open because it's when it all crashes down around here. Everybody's got their
Yeah,
thing.
100%.
So tell me about the third verse, though.
Yeah.
So that line
Yeah.
stood out to me the very first time I heard it. Oh, failure, what a glorious plan.
Yeah. That's a special line for me. I think it's a turning point where I'm able to step back a little, look at the last year and a half of our lives, and I'm able to see it all through a different light. And I think it's at this point where you take that experience, as hard as it was, and we have this faith that God can take something like that and use it for good. And so when I look back at that season of my life, it's amazing to see how heart failure and how the suffering of this little girl also brought healing in a lot of people who were following along in her story. It also brought a totally different perspective of life for us as a family, a different view on how special your time is with your kids. You walked out of there. My friend told me the other day, he's like, you've got the smell of smoke on your skin. And I was like, what an interesting thought. You've been through the fire, and you're marked from here on out. Like you're a changed person. Mm-hmm. And so I think to wrestle with all that and to look back and go, man, we have to recognize all that happened in that time, in that moment. Failure, what a glorious plan that was. Mm-hmm. I would have never said yes to it, but in a lot of ways, I am thankful we went through it.
Right. The universal theme there is that almost like whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but not to say that the difficulty is easy, but it is amazing how many good things can come out of difficult situations, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And then there's always, new growth that comes from the ash or whatever.
Totally.
I've never heard that before. A failure, what a glorious plan. I thought that was such a great way to express that sentiment.
And it's also literal. I mean, literal heart failure. Mm-hmm. But the idea of something falling apart, like there's still so much good that can come out of that.
I love the intensity that you sing those lyrics as well. Failure, what a glorious plan. From what once was only hope and a dream is the next line.
Yeah, so that I would say on my darkest days, living in the ICU, those, oh man, honestly, I remember sitting like on the edge of this little bed that I had in there, looking out the window, going like, I don't know if we're gonna get out of here. Like that's a hard thing to think. But then the line after that, reaching palms to the sun, how we throw our arms around you. It's kind of talking to the sun or to light or to like heat, like feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin. Like when you're inside those walls, you're like, oh, if we could just be out there, if we could just be, she was attached to a machine that was literally keeping her alive. So you can't go outside. You can't, you are not getting out of there unless a miracle happens. And so to now be on the other side of this and to feel the warmth of the sun on our skin and to just be so thankful and so grateful and just like staring up at the heavens, going like, God, how did how did you do this? How did we get out of that? You know? Yeah, it's a feeling like no other.
It's great, man. Yeah, the lyrics are what really stand out to me. It's a great way to start the EP. The other side of the coin for this tune would be to sing it down an octave, and the lyrics take on, again, a little bit of a different perspective.
Days of a brand new start came in perfect time and measure.
Clearly too low for me to sing.
I didn't want to say anything, but, you know.
Not a baritone.
Just a way for us to reimagine it and offer this story.
I think the lyrics and the story and everything being said in this song can come in many different shapes and sizes. Mm-hmm. And it all has the same meaning, but it kind of opens it up a bit when you strip away all the fuss, mm-hmm. and you just have that lyric saying, "Days of a brand new start." It's still joyful and it's still grateful and everything, but it's just a little more personal.
Mm-hmm. Tons of percussion on this, just layers and layers and layers. Those are stomps and stuff all around the studio, right?
Yeah. A lot of that is actually just an iPhone going around and me hitting things around the room. Drums were done separately, so it's all real instruments tracked in here in the studio, but like kick drum just by itself, snare just by itself, hi-hats and cymbals kind of by themselves.
It's just a lot.
It's so much going on. I knew I couldn't play this, exactly how I wanted it in one take or anything. Everything in the song just builds and builds to this final moment. The lyrics, the music, it's all telling a story, and you hear it, you feel it. My family has been through the fire and back, and we survived it. So now being on the other side of this, we stand together in humility, but in victory.
Yeah.
So this final section to me had to be victorious. It had to be a celebration. It had to be a freaking party.
Days of a brand new start came in perfect time and measure. Grace and a golden heart, how we've thrown our arms around you. Saints through an endless sky, the heavens looking down upon you. Glory, we bask in the sun, how you've put your arms around me. I've been waiting my whole life. I've been waiting my whole life for this.
Thanks for listening. We have a lot more of these episodes coming soon, so make sure to hit subscribe and follow. You can always find the latest information on the podcast and all of our new releases at wearechapters.com.